Traditional strategies, they don't work anymore.
AI is making decisions faster than we can understand them.
Everyone's selling answers. Nobody has the truth.
Disruption isn't coming. It's already here.
Who's willing to cut through the bullshit?
Outwired.
I'm sorry, guys, you got to wait for a second. We're having a discussion here about my hydroponic garden and how Jessica can take tomatoes off of it and lettuce and bring it home. And so that's what we were talking about during the intro. It was still stuttering because I haven't managed to figure out why Restream hasn't fixed it. But anyway, sorry. Vegetables are expensive, if you guys had noticed, because of fuel prices. So we're sharing the love of all the vegetables and the lettuce and all the things. You grow stuff, don't you, Scott? You told me that?
Yes, I do.
But not during the winter.
I don't really grow stuff during the winter. Sprouts. I do sprouts. How's that? Sprouts and microgreens.
Have you ever thought about maybe that's why you're a little bit more grumpy in the winter than the summer?
I've thought about a lot of reasons I'm a little more grumpy, but
I mean, I'm grumpy all year. So like you're still way ahead of me, but I think you should get a greenhouse and put it outside and be like, yeah. Because they can do it anywhere. You've never been to Iceland, have you?
No.
There's this massive greenhouse in Iceland that's full of tomatoes. Like they became one of the largest exporters of tomatoes in Iceland, and it's all inside in a greenhouse. And you can go in there's a little restaurant there, and you can eat the freshest tomato soup you've ever had in your life. And they have bees in there pollinating it. It's really cool. Anyway, okay, so that's how again, nobody expected Outwired to start. Welcome to Outwired. So what's on your desk this week, Scott Barr, as I pour a Dunville's single malt Irish whiskey?
What's on my desk this week is kind of the continued monitoring of what's going to happen this year. Yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking about it.
Tell us, predict it.
Talking to people about it, and it feels like there's still a lot of uncertainty. I do think that a couple of the events like the America 250 and the Route 66 could boost us enough to keep us going this year.
Okay.
I think, instead of a decline, it might keep us flat. And I know initially this year when the year started, I predicted that we'd have we'd be flat to a minor increase.
You did. We have that on tape.
It exists everywhere. I've written it down too. So it does exist. So I don't have to stick by it. But no, I think these events, we know. Here, I'll use an example. A couple of years ago when we had the eclipse, that really brought a lot of people out, a lot. And it gave a boost to shoulder season. It gave a boost to a lot of places that were in the path of the eclipse. It was kind of eclipse mania.
Yeah, Trump did it 3 times.
It was, yeah, he did. And it was amazing kind of the impact that had, though, on the year overall. Because if you got one event that can get people out and can entice them to get out and about a little bit, it carries momentum with it. People get out and they're like, they had a good time and maybe they want to go out again. Gets them, like in that case, it got people really interested in celestial events. And, for example, night sky viewing since that time has increased quite a bit in interest. So these things do, have a little bit of a snowball effect. So that's kind of where I sit as of today. I saw the report shipments are down 11% year over year.
Oh, and did we ever talk about the RV, the retail sales? We never talked about that, did we?
We didn't really, no.
Yeah, we should. Well, you finish your thought, and then we'll briefly talk about that.
But so anyway, but I was just going to say with that so the RV industry right now is kind of looking at what could be a fairly down year. It doesn't necessarily mean that camping overall will be down.
Yeah.
Because people obviously camp in other ways other than RVs.
And they also already own their RVs too, which the numbers are.
They already own it. Yeah, the turnover rate, I would guess, I would think that the used RV market might thrive a little bit more this year. You might see some people downgrade their RV a little bit just to make what you see. Basically, what happens in these situations is people adjust. They make adjustments, and they still want to travel. How it impacts us though is that if that person takes one fewer trips per year, that if enough people do that, it has a real impact. Same thing if they decrease the number of nights by even a night. Again, it has a ripple effect. So but people still go out, and I think we just need to work hard we need to figure some of this stuff out in terms of getting more people out more often and get them to keep coming back. I don't know. I feel like interest is still there. I think people want to do stuff.
We got to give them a reason to. We got to market it. We got to show them that, especially like we've hung our hat, I feel like, on this industry for good reason on the RV side of it, almost completely for, well, really our existence, right? Before, obviously tent camping was before that, but last 34 years, right? We've hung our hat almost exclusively on RVing. And yes, we've expanded into glamping and cabin rentals and, Airstream rentals and RV rentals that are on property. And people have marketed those, to be clear. But we haven't really gone all in on that. And I think that's where the shift comes from now, especially as we'll talk about in a second, gas prices. And like there's a massive number of people who do want to, as you've said repeatedly, Scott, and the data shows, get outside and enjoy nature. They're just not necessarily staying, but they can be enticed to stay for sure if they know that you exist and you offer something unique and different that doesn't require them to purchase an RV. Not saying the RVers aren't going, but there's a whole nother audience that's so much bigger if you have those rentals on your property.
Absolutely. And again, I did some was looking at some results of some interviews from this last week. Excuse me, I didn't get a chance to mute my mic. I pulled some quotes out. I just thought they'd be kind of interesting because the question is, will increases in the cost of fuel and other items for camping impact your upcoming travel plans? And here's a couple quotes. Nope. If I can't afford the gas for the toys, then I shouldn't have them. I'd rather die broke than wondering what's over the hill. Then, if you can afford a camper, you can afford the gas prices. We thought about it, but decided to go with the original plan. We're still going, just closer to home. Plenty of things to see and do. Nope, I didn't buy an RV for a gas saver. It is what it is. None of them are economical, in my opinion. Towing, motorhome, whatever you choose. Anyway, and it goes on and on. That's pretty much the theme.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that.
Ain't gonna stop me. So and that's kind of reflecting what there are. One of the other quotes is they're gonna take like 2 of their regular trips that they'd always planned, they're still going to take. They were going to take 2 additional trips further out, but decided that they're going to stay like within 50 miles of home for the other 2 trips. So they're just, again, they're making that adjustment. They're not bailing. They're just, and I do think it dovetails with what you were saying, Brian, about like giving them a reason. It's like, find those people closer to you that are maybe looking for that opportunity to to maybe save a few bucks. It's not like they're. It seems like for many they're not unwilling to spend the extra, but if they don't have to, and they could find something to do, in their RV a little bit closer, I think they'd do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think gas prices again, I think have always been a boon to our industry versus a negative, but I think it's the stacking on top of everything that we don't need to revisit, right? I think that it's not just gas prices this year, like it almost is when they go up. It is in previous years, not every year, but when they go up, it's the gas prices are now maybe, I don't want to say the final nail in the coffin. That's too grim, but like the cherry on top of the ice cream or something, right? Or the decoration on top of the cake. Like it's already ugly in multiple different ways. And I think that's where I've always thought this year is in danger of potentially losing. I hope I'm very wrong. And I hope you're right, Scott. Well, I hope you're better than right. I hope you're right. And not just up slightly. I hope we're up a lot. But I don't think it's the gas prices that's going to impact it one way or another. Gas prices might be positive to your point, right?
But again, it's that stacking effect. We talked about it last year, in fact, a little bit about how like external stressful events impact people as well.
Yep.
And if you put that on top of increased prices, now you have a little bit of a different stew going on in people's minds and what they're going to do and not going to do. So I think people who own RVs are still going to go out and use their RV. They want to. They bought them for that reason. The sector that will hurt are new RV sales. And probably
which we'll talk about in a second. We're going to talk about that in a second. First, we're going to do something different, Scott. We're going to start positive on this show. Very positive, guys. Are you ready for this? Okay. We're going to talk about the Iran war because it's great. It is great, according to Scott, for camping, being at war in Iran. Well, maybe not Iran specifically. War is just overall great, right, Scott?
It typically drives up participation. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, I bet you we're the only people who are like, war is great in the whole maybe podcasting landscape of all industries.
Well, it's just like a lot of people in the industry, especially the RV industry, are like, hey, a pandemic was awesome for business. It's like, it was.
So to be clear, we're not really like cheering on war, but Scott is correct that it is good for the industry. And so we should, like, we talked about this briefly last week on the call. Well, I shouldn't say briefly. We deep dove into this last week on the call, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think it's important to follow up, like, for the people who watch the market every day, who see the swings back and forth with the stock market going up and the stock market going down and oil futures going up and oil futures crashing because there's suddenly a deal on the table that isn't really a deal, that somebody's talking and nobody's talking and everybody's saying different things. If you don't follow the economy as closely as an economist does, or someone with no life like me, you have to realize there's a difference between the oil futures that you're looking at in the market. So the price per barrel that you see on, I want to keep calling it MSNBC, but whatever the network is, right? CNBC is still there, isn't it? I remember like they got
MS now.
Yeah, it's not NBC anymore. I just couldn't remember. Right. But so I'm thinking of CNBC though. That's still around, I think. But so the price per barrel that you see on the stock market is not the actual price per barrel that people are paying in physical dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and maybe people care about this, maybe they don't. Just briefly, right? So like an oil futures contract is the right to purchase oil at a specific price in the future. So like right now, I think the futures contracts that they're buying are for May delivery, but that doesn't actually entitle you to a barrel of oil, and sort of kind of does, but not really. And so what happens is if they lose on the contract or they gain on it, like they could buy it's kind of like a hedge. So let's say the barrel of oil right now is, let's just make up $100, although it's much, much more than that. I think depending on the price you go locally, it's somewhere between $150 and $200, depending on if you're in the Middle East or the US or wherever else, right? The actual price and that hasn't fluctuated. It doesn't fluctuate. Well, it hasn't based on this news. So you can buy an oil futures contract for May delivery at $89. If the price of oil is $150 when you take delivery, then you hedge the bet. You either lose or you win. Right? Either you've paid more for that contract at $175 or you've paid less at $89, $90, $100, whatever else. But that can help you make up the difference of bridging the gap between that. So effectively, if what the rumors say are true, and nobody has any evidence of this to be clear, but we're just going in all directions here. We started off on a hydroponic podcast, and we're going to Iran war, and now we might as well go to speculative conspiracy theory, right? If, as some of the economists say, the United States Treasury is intentionally holding down the price of oil by short selling it, the futures contracts, they're effectively subsidizing the airlines who can buy that contract at $89 and then have the difference made up. So they're actually like not paying as much for the barrel of oil, and then the airline saves money, but the government loses money. Does that make sense? Am I explaining that right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So anyway, but the war it does not appear to be ending anytime soon. The market is reacting to all kinds of crazy news. Like Trump yesterday said he sent his plan to Iran, and then this morning, like Iran was like, no, not even close. But the oil is still down and everything is up. But the point is that the gas that people are paying at the gas stations is still up. It's going to remain up because the price of buying that physical barrel of oil in person is not the same as the price you see on the market, which means you as a campground owner have a marketing opportunity here. As long as this continues, as long as the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, you have an opportunity to market to your guests that the RVing lifestyle or escaping from the city in a cabin or glamping unit or whatever it may be was an affordable vacation, but even now more is a replacement for the vacation that they're on the fence for, that they might have flown to take before or gone on a cruise, or now they're staying closer to home. So explain some of the ways that they can take advantage of that in your mind, Scott.
The biggest way that people can take advantage of this is to, one, kind of reinforce the idea of what the benefits of being outside are. Like why do people go in the first place? We've known this since the beginning of time, that it's escapism. It reduces stress. People, when they feel like their lives are really hectic and out of control, going outdoors helps a lot. It's been proven scientifically.
But don't assume your camper. Don't assume the people you're trying to get into the lifestyle know this.
Correct. And that is exactly right, because they need to be communicated with in a way that reinforces that, but also kind of on their own terms, like how they would define it, and to think about a person who does not typically camp. Maybe how would you want to tell them that story? And that's where you need to hire a communications specialist, someone who understands that how best to communicate these themes, because it is the opportunity. And we know historically, under stress, people like to go outdoors. They like to camp. I've tracked this. I've pulled data since 1960 on national park visitation, and I've done overlays of many different things.
Wait. You were doing market research in 1960, or you just?
I know I'm
historical.
Actually, Paul Rudd. So
you're like the boss baby.
Yeah, I just don't age. You
look good.
Anytime there's a major event, you can see a blip, and I've done this statistically too. I've looked at the impact overall, whether it's an election year. We've looked at that. We've looked at how an election year promotes park visitation. We've looked at stressful events. We've whether it's 9/11 or the Vietnam War, all these things. Again, since 1960, recessions. We've plotted recessions against visitation, and again, it tracks. And historically, these things have held up. There's sometimes a little bit of a delay as people readjust, but then there's always a bigger rebound to it. I'll use because in fairly recent memory, 9/11. Initially, what you saw was a lot of people stay home. They weren't traveling. They didn't want to go anywhere. But then the rebound was huge. RV sales went through the roof. Campgrounds were full. People were out. There was a lot more domestic travel. It had a real, and it was based on the fact that people wanted to feel good. They wanted to feel good about themselves and what was going on and going outside.
And once they got past that initial, like, this is not about to happen in every state or dozens of times, I'm safe.
Right. And from that point to air travel took obviously to when declined quite a bit. We're in a little bit of that right now with what's going on with TSA, the big lines. People are not wanting to travel by air. I've heard anecdotally, at least, a lot of people are changing or canceling plans in the near term until this gets resolved. Again, these are times when you can communicate with people and say, "Hey, we're right here." People in your area, especially, we're here. It's like, take your vacation with us. It's a great opportunity. Tell your story. Tell them the benefits of why they should do that. Give them a why, as you said in the lead into the show. You have to give them a reason.
And the audience is so massive. Like, the amount of people who don't own RVs, because that's mostly what, and again, there are exceptions to this rule, right? On a macro level, 70 to 80% of the industry has only been marketing to people with RVs for 40 years. So if you are within, let's say, an hour of a major city, right? Like, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but ish. You need to reach out to that city, and you need to start, like, what are your cabins? What are your glamping units? What are your rentals? If you have RV rentals that are on property that they can just come stay in, like RVs, these people need reached out to in a different way, with different messaging and different imagery and different communications, because they don't know that you exist. They haven't been marketed to by you before. They have no emails. They have no Facebook messages. They have no concept of what is available at your property. And you need to package it in a way that is not how you typically talk to an RVer. Even if it's an RVer who also stays in your cabin rentals, they are already familiar with the camping lifestyle. Many of them know the difference between staying at national parks and state parks versus private campgrounds. Many of them know that the amenities are available on your property, or what aren't, or what to expect or what not to expect, or how much privacy to have or not, or the distance and proximity between things that people already love to do, like going hiking and biking. It's just different messaging. And you've never had a better opportunity to do this, to just go to AI and reframe that. And maybe we'll do that later as a demo on the show. But I think that's important because, regardless of what you see in the media, regardless of which network you watch, regardless of whatever you see, there's always a chance that all of us are wrong, or most of the people who know Iran are wrong, who I watch a little bit, but I don't think this war's going away anytime soon. And even if it does, the Strait of Hormuz is not going to almost certainly ever be the same again. You want another tidbit, Scott, that I picked up last week? Iran is actually allowing certain ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Mostly China's oil is flowing free. Some limited Indian ships have been going through, some other smaller countries here and there, right, who get permission from Iran to pass. What they are doing is they are charging these ships up to, I've read, somewhere around $2 million US, or $2 million to pass. And they're loaded with oil, so this is not a large sum of money. It is a big sum of money, right? But it's not large compared to the cargo that they're paying and having it stuck there and not being able to get out. And they've just introduced a bill of some kind. I didn't read the full bill in their Iranian parliament that says, like, this is something we need to codify into law. We're going to we've stumbled into accidentally by closing the Strait of Hormuz because Trump and Israel bombed us, not getting into politics, but we've stumbled into this fact that, like, controlling the Strait of Hormuz is almost more powerful than having a nuclear weapon. And so why would they ever go back? They'll continue to act as like a toll on a highway, letting who they want through. And there's a whole deeper thing that we won't dive into on the show about how they're making people trade that oil in yuan. Is it yuan or yuan? Chinese currency instead of the US dollar, which is a whole interesting macro dynamic for the future of whatever. But we're not here to talk about that. We might open the show with next week. You never know. But we're not going to talk about that today. So it's just, I as a campground owner, what I'm trying to say is I would plan for gas prices to remain high, and I would market the heck out of that in every way you can. But use your tools like AI, and again, we'll do an exercise later. Maybe you will see how AI suggests to recommend it, right?
Yep.
but take strong advantage of this, because this is a strength for you, and it's something that you can market to, right? Like, obviously you weren't gonna, you know, necessarily go hard after COVID people, say like escape the city and take off your mask and come, right? That's a whole different, it's a little iffy, right? Obviously you benefited from it, but you weren't going to market against it. But now you can market against this.
Right. And it's the idea that, I mean, essentially what you're marketing is therapy, you know? I mean, that's what it's all about. People want it and need it, and you've got the cure.
Yeah, and present it that way. Think of it, frame it that way. Your marketing videos, your marketing material, it just has to be framed differently for the type of audience that you're going to attract. And there's no one size fits all, right? It depends on if it's Gen Z, millennials, boomers, who you're trying to attract, what city you're trying to attract from. Is it a southern or northern city? You know, what's the vibe? Are they a cowboy city like Calgary or Texas, or right? You just have to tailor your messaging, and then you can get a lot of stuff out of people if you're providing that good experience at your campground, which most people are. But you got to tell that story of why you're better. All right. So that was that all we have for the positive news?
I think so.
All right. So let's talk about RV
stuff.
Wait, what?
Wait till we get to the negative stuff.
Yes, that was our positive spin for the day. Let's talk briefly about retail shipments, or not shipments, but retail sales, because I think this is something that people need to be aware of, because I think this is economic related, but and I'm going to be maybe bold when I say this, and obviously I don't know nearly as much about the RV industry as, well, the RV industry people, but especially even you, Scott, because you do all this data and research. Like, I think this for sure is not going to stay down as much as we're about to talk about forever, but I think that it's going to be depressed for a while unless the RV industry figures out how to market to things that we've talked about on the show before, Gen Zs and Gen Z, Gen A, who are, you know, struggling to understand how do I buy an RV, but like, how do I drive this thing? How do I maintain it? How do I store it? Where do I put it in the city? Lots of different intangibles that the industry is not really addressing as the boomer traditional market fades out. But your thoughts on that, Scott, and the numbers that come into it?
Yeah, because the newer generations are not as comfortable with it as previous generations. In the past, I mean, just a brief history. I'll try not to sound like the old man, get off my lawn.
I mean, you can't get more boring than the petrodollar that I was just talking about too.
But historically, when people started camping, the thing that brought them out was the outdoors, the pull of the outdoors. It was, I love the outdoors, let's go camping. The newer generations, that's not why they've gone. They've gone camping as a way to do other things. In many cases, they were dragged along on a family trip. They've done it to maybe save money. They did it during COVID, and this was a big one because it was the only way they could really travel and stay. Or they've done it because they wanted to try the van life. But all those reasons are not because they liked being outdoors. So historically, people would start off when they were younger. They'd start off in tents. You know, there was usually the old evolution of the camper. You start off in a tent, you go to a pop-up, then you go to some kind of towable, maybe maybe a class B van or something, then a class A, and then a park model at the very end when you're all ready to be sedentary. But it's changed because now we have things like glamping, and more people's first experience is not in a tent. One, it's not being driven by a desire to be outdoors, and two, the first experience for many is glamping, staying in a cabin, some other kind of accommodation, very comfortable. So the two things that have happened, they haven't learned the skills of how to camp. And I've talked about that extensively on here. If I don't mention it once a week, then someone please remind me, so I do mention it once a week. But the other part is that um, they're they don't have that desire to necessarily RV, because why would I when I can stay in a cabin or something else? I don't have to pay for it. I don't have to drive it and park it. I don't have to, learn all those new things.
Dump the tanks and figure out the wattage, and let's be honest, like not all, but many of the mid-tier and up glamping experiences are more comfortable than an RV.
Sure. And the industry itself has not responded to these changes and said, what is it about RVing that people are attracted to? And been able to communicate that in the language and in the manner that the newer generations can relate to and respond to. And it's also, the industry has not been very innovative. There are not a great deal of changes. When you look, if you go on any lot right now and start looking at RVs and compare them to the RVs that were produced 20 years ago, they're not that different. They just really aren't. There's, it's the same basic design. It's the same basic floor plan. A lot of it, the exterior look is pretty much the same. So you're not seeing an industry that's producing a product that has evolved with the population and the changes that people are interested in. Though probably the one sector of the RV industry that has is really the smaller, the lightweights, the teardrops and so on. But those, again, the interest is limited. The idea that it doesn't carry with it all the comfort that maybe a regular RV does. And but those have sold well. Towables overall account for like 60% of the RV market overall. By the way, everybody talks about motorhomes and such, but it's the towables that are the vast majority of the market. So the industry itself hasn't responded. It's traditionally been fairly slow to respond to market changes, and it is in the process right now of having to figure that out on the fly. Just
Are they trying to figure this out on the fly? Do you see? I'm not suggesting they aren't. I'm asking.
Behind the scenes, yes. Yeah, you're not seeing it on the lots yet, but there is, because there's a lot of hand wringing going on, and as there should be. When you see double-digit declines year over year in your sales and shipments, then you need to address that problem.
And let's say how stark it is, right? So the numbers from the SSI report.
Yeah, the shipments are down 11%. I think that was just today that was announced, right? 11% year over year.
I didn't see. Well, that was shipments, but what about retail sales?
Retail sales were down even more, almost 15%, as I recall.
And some of the verticals were like, I think Class A was down 25%. Fifth wheels were down 18% year over year. Like, these are kind of bloody, ugly numbers.
And that flies in the face of what some economists said, which was it would be the higher end RVs, the higher dollar ones, that would pull the industry up, because the higher income households would be able to afford those and still buy them. But what we're seeing is that's not the case. That's not happening. Those higher income.
Why?
There aren't enough of them.
Okay.
There just aren't enough consumers out there in that category to purchase enough to really boost the industry. And the industry is losing that marginal buyer, that person that's on the edge. The financing for RVs is very friendly, and but if someone's on the margins, maybe concerned about their job in the coming year, whatever, they're not going to make that big commitment to buying a $250,000 motorhome. So what you have then is you're getting peeled off from the people kind of on that margin who may either hold off, buy something less expensive, or maybe it would sit back and wait, wait and see how things play out.
I'm asking Opus real quick. Claude, you want to share my screen, Jessica? If I own a company that designs Class A motorhomes and haven't adapted much at all in the last 30 years, floor plans the same, etc., how do I truly adapt from first principles for Gen Z, etc., versus small changes? So this is a great strategic question. Honestly, it's one that most legacy RV manufacturers are getting wrong. They're tweaking finishes and adding USB ports and calling it modernization. That's lipstick. Here's how I think that this is all I asked, to be clear. Like, I didn't give it any slant toward, you should attack RV dealers, just so we're honest here, right? That's lipstick. Here's how I think about it from genuine first principles. Start by killing your assumptions. The entire Class A motorhome was designed around a set of lifestyle assumptions from the 1980s and 90s. Retired couples, long, slow trips, snowbirding, full hookup campgrounds, cable TV. The vehicle is a home away from home that replicates the suburban house experience on wheels. Every floor plan decision, the residential fridge, the queen island bed, the dinette, the overhead cabinets, flows from that archetype. Gen Z doesn't share almost any of these base assumptions. So the real question isn't what floor plan do they want, it's what life are they actually trying to live, and does a Class A even serve it? Then work backwards from how they actually behave. Gen Z and younger millennials value experiences over ownership, flexibility over commitment, and authenticity over luxury. They're comfortable with smaller spaces. They grew up with tiny homes, van life content, co-living. They work remotely. They travel in shorter bursts, but more frequently. They're social media native, meaning the vehicle is partly a content creation platform, whether you like it or not. They care about sustainability not as a checkbox, but as a genuine purchasing filter. And critically, they don't aspire to the same big rig in a resort lifestyle that your current customer does. Are we on track so far, Scott?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So from first principles, I challenge every layer. The chassis and size question, does it even need to be a Class A? The honest answer might be no. Or it might be a dramatically shorter, more maneuverable Class A that parks in places traditional ones can't. Gen Z doesn't want to be locked into KOAs and big rig only parks. Hey, Claude said it. I didn't say it. Not saying I agree. Just saying it is what it is. They want BLM land, national forests, beach parking, urban overnight spots. A 40-foot bus is a prison sentence for that lifestyle. If you insist on Class A, think 25 to 28 feet max, with serious thought given to drivability by someone who's never towed anything. The interior is a modular system, not as a fixed floor plan. Stop thinking in rooms. Gen Z grew up with IKEA hacks and modular furniture. The interior should be reconfigurable. A workspace by day, a social space by evening, a sleep space at night. Think less miniature apartment and more Swiss Army knife. Convertible surfaces, hidden storage, multi-use everything. The dinette that becomes a bed is a 30-year-old idea executed badly. Do it properly with real industrial design. Technology is infrastructure, not features. Don't bolt on a tech package. Build the vehicle around connectivity. Starlink-ready roof with proper mounting and power. Massive battery bank and solar is standard, not optional, because they want to boondock and they want to work remotely. The electrical system is arguably more important than the plumbing system for this demographic. Integrated wireless charging surfaces, not a USB port screwed onto a cabinet. Proper ventilation and climate without running a generator because they'll be off-grid and they care about noise and emissions. Still good?
Yep.
Sustainability is structural, not cosmetic. Don't greenwash with bamboo cabinet faces. Rethink the materials science. Lighter composites means better fuel economy, which matters both financially and ethically to this buyer. Offer a hybrid or electric drivetrain path, even if it's not perfect yet, because the signal matters. Make the water systems more efficient. Make the vehicle repairable and upgradable rather than disposable. The purchase model itself, this might be the most radical shift needed. Gen Z may not want to buy a $150,000 vehicle outright. Think about subscription models, fractional ownership, rent to own, or a manufacturer-backed rental fleet where they can test the lifestyle before committing. The business model is part of the product. Social and community design. The vehicle should be designed for gathering, not isolation. Outdoor living space matters more than indoor square footage. A massive awning, an outdoor kitchen, easy setup for group camping, interior social space that seats 4 to 6 comfortably, not a living room for 2 people watching TV. The hard truth is that if you've been building the same product for 30 years, the organizational muscle memory is your biggest enemy. Your engineers, your dealer network, your supplier relations, your factory tooling, everything is optimized for the customer you have, not the customer you need. A true first principles approach might mean standing up a separate brand or skunkworks team that isn't constrained by how we've always done it. Let them start from a blank sheet with a budget and a target demographic, not a legacy platform to modify. The companies that will win this transition are the ones willing to ask, if the RV hadn't been invented yet and we were designing a mobile living vehicle for a 28-year-old remote worker in 2026, what would we build? The answer almost certainly doesn't look like what's on your lot today. What would you build?
Yeah, as that's running, one of the things to consider too is that for a lot of Gen Zers, especially, what they want to do is travel solo, but be social when they arrive. They call it the solo social traveler. So when you think about your RV and you're designing that, there's a lot of people out there who are like that, and that, which is fine. It's just a travel preference. So you end up with this notion that you are trying to get people in vehicles, and they're traveling in them. They're getting there. It isn't just the destination. It's the trip itself. That I think that's part of where the industry hasn't really responded yet. That especially with this generation, it's the trip itself, the getting there, is part of what they're selling.
You see this?
Yep.
The core insight: this generation doesn't want a recreational vehicle. They want a mobile life platform. The word recreational is the first thing to kill. It implies the vehicle is for leisure, for vacation, and for escape. But Gen Z doesn't want to think that way. For many of them, the line between work, travel, social life, and recreation is almost completely blurred. They want a vehicle that supports all of life, not a vacation box. What do you think about that?
Interesting.
I like a mobile life platform.
That would be a great tagline for an RV manufacturer.
The vehicle itself, a modular electric mid-size platform. Think architectural, not automotive. Imagine something roughly the footprint of a Mercedes Sprinter, but purpose-built, not a conversion. Around 22 feet total, low profile, not the wedding cake stack of a traditional RV. The exterior aesthetic is closer to a Rivian or Cybertruck than a Winnebago. Clean lines, matte finishes, intentional. It looks like something you'd see parked outside a design studio, not a Walmart. Electric drivetrain, full stop. Not because the range is perfect today, it isn't, but because this is a 10-year product bet and the infrastructure is coming. Supplement with a small range extender generator for the transition period if you must, but the architecture is electric first. This gives you a flat floor with no drivetrain tunnel, massive interior design advantage, regenerative braking, instant torque for mountain driving, and near silent operation at camp. The chassis battery handles driving. A separate house battery bank, think 15 to 20 kilowatts, handles living, charged by roof solar, integrated, not bolted on panels. The roof is the solar array, and shore power when available. The key innovation: the interior is not a floor plan, it's a kit of parts. Here's where it gets radical. The interior has a structural rail system, think aerospace seat tracks, built into the floor and walls. Every major component clicks in, locks, and can be repositioned or swapped. The galley module, the sleep module, the work module, the lounge module, the wet bath module. This one's fixed. Plumbing needs to be stationary, but it's the only thing that is. You buy the base vehicle and choose your configuration. Going on a 2-week solo work trip, slot in the large workstation with dual monitors, the single sleep platform, and the full galley. Taking 4 friends to a festival, pull the workstation, drop in the lounge module with convertible sleeping for 4, swap the full galley for a compact one to free up floor space. Need to haul gear for a climbing trip? Pull everything but the sleep module and the galley, and you've got a massive cargo area. This isn't fantasy. The rail system technology exists in aircraft, military vehicles, and expedition vans today. The innovation is making it consumer friendly with quick release mechanisms and modules light enough for 2 people to swap in 30 minutes. And the third space is outside, not inside. Traditional RVs try to cram the entire living experience inside the box. That's backwards for this demographic. They want to be outside. So the vehicle is designed as a deployment platform for outdoor living. One full side of the vehicle opens, not an awning that cranks out, but a powered wall section that lifts hydraulically to create a covered open air room. Think gull wing, but architectural scale. When deployed, it doubles your usable living space instantly. Integrated LED lighting, power drops, and a retractable screen mesh for bugs. A slide-out flat deck extends from the rear. Your outdoor kitchen, your hangout platform, your yoga mat surface. It's structural aluminum rated for real weight, not a flimsy step. The roof is accessible. A low-profile rail system and a fixed ladder mean the roof is a usable deck. Sunset drinks, stargazing, and extra sleep service in warm weather. The solar is integrated into walkable panels. Are we good so far? Is this interesting?
Yeah.
Technology layer. The vehicle is a computer that moves. Every system is networked and accessible from a single app. Climate, power management, water levels, location, security, all of it. But more importantly, Starlink is factory integrated with a motorized auto-leveling antenna. You have broadband internet everywhere. This isn't an option. It's standard, because without it, the vehicle doesn't fulfill its core promise of supporting remote work. The interior has a studio mode, proper lighting for video calls and content creation, ring light equivalents built into the ceiling, acoustic treatment on the walls, not carpet, actual sound dampening materials, a designated camera angle position that frames a clean background. This sounds trivial. It's not. This demographic lives on camera. A vehicle that makes them look good on Zoom and on Instagram is a vehicle they'll evangelize. Power management is AI driven. The system learns your patterns when you work, when you cook, when you sleep, and optimizes battery draw, solar charging, and climate control automatically. You never think about it. You never flip a breaker or calculate amp hours. That's legacy thinking. The wet bath reimagined. The traditional RV bathroom is a crime against dignity. Here's the fix. A proper wet room, not a closet. Slightly larger than what you'd see in a Class B with a rain shower head, real water pressure from a variable speed pump, a composting toilet, no black tank, no dump stations, no sewer hose. This alone removes one of the biggest friction points in RV life. And a gray water recycling system that filters and reuses sink and shower water for toilet flushing and exterior washing. This extends your water independence dramatically and aligns with the sustainability expectation. The body is composite, carbon fiber and fiberglass sandwich panels, not aluminum sheeting over wood framing. This is lighter, better range, better handling, stronger, no delamination, no water intrusion rot, and better insulated, 4-season capable without being a fuel hog. The interior materials are honest: birch plywood, wool felt, recycled aluminum, and cork. Nothing that pretends to be something it isn't. No fake granite, no fake wood grain, no carpet. The aesthetic is Muji meets REI meets Scandinavian cabin. That sounds nice. The business model is part of the product. You don't just sell the vehicle, you sell the ecosystem. The base vehicle starts around $85,000 to $95,000, less than a mid-range Class C, way less than a Class A. Modules are purchased separately, starting at $2,000 to $8,000, depending on complexity. This means the entry price is accessible and the customer can grow their configuration over time. It also means the company has a recurring hardware revenue stream as people buy new modules or upgrades. Offer a subscription tier. $200 to $400 a month gets you access to a network of curated campsites with guaranteed charging infrastructure, a module swap library, borrow a different configuration for a trip without buying it, and a concierge service for route planning and maintenance. Build a manufacturer-backed peer-to-peer rental platform from day one. Owners can rent their vehicle when they're not using it, offsetting the cost. The company takes a percentage. This solves the "I want this life but can't justify the cost" problem and builds a trial pipeline for future buyers. The brand, it's not an RV company. It's a mobility and lifestyle brand. The marketing never shows a retired couple at a hookup site. It shows a filmmaker editing on a cliffside, a group of friends cooking under the gull wing at a trailhead, a couple working from a beach parking lot with a side open to the ocean, a solo traveler on BLM land under a sky full of stars with the roof deck deployed. The name doesn't have RV, motor, coach, cruiser, or any legacy RV terminology in it. It sounds like a tech company or an outdoor brand. Think along the lines of Rivian, Acer, is it Acertech? Arctex? Snow
I
Peak,
don't even know.
not Fleetwood or Coachman. The uncomfortable bottom line for your hypothetical company, almost none of your existing capabilities, your factory tooling, your supplier base, your dealer network, your engineering team's expertise in traditional coach construction transfers cleanly to this product, which is exactly why incumbents almost never make this leap. They try to evolve their existing product 10% at a time and get outflanked by a startup that builds from zero. The real question isn't how we can build this. It's do we have the courage to cannibalize our own product line before someone else does it for us? Name the product. What do you think?
No, it would, to me, a conversation like that would be great to have in a development meeting with at one of the manufacturers to
You
just
think they would listen?
it.
As a macro
Somewhat.
statement, not a micro statement. I'm sure some would.
I'm going to say overall the industry, no. There are manufacturers and people within it that will, but the industry overall is not, for whatever reason, they're not ready to do that. I don't know what it will take, but they and maybe they are now. Maybe what's happened recently, maybe things have opened up a little bit. But it would be a great conversation to think about where you are in your development process, what's in the pipeline, because without some of these adjustments, the product is just going to continue to flail.
Modo. From the Latin modus, the way, manner, and mode. For those on the podcast, I said name the product. It immediately evokes modular, which is the core product innovation. This is copyrighted, by the way, on Outwired, so we need to say this. The one thing that makes it, if you guys decide in the RV industry to build this, then Scott and I get a commission of every sale.
Oh, yeah.
It immediately invokes modular, which is the core product innovation, the thing that makes it fundamentally different from everything else on the road, but it doesn't say modular outright, which would sound like an engineering spec, not a lifestyle. In Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese, modo simply means way, as in your way of living. That's the brand promise in a single word. It's not telling you where to go or what to do. It's a platform for however you want to live. It's 2 syllables, generally pronounceable, globally pronounceable, works in every market, sounds like it belongs next to Rivian, Sonos, and Muji, not next to Fleetwood, Winnebago, or Thor. It has 0 RV baggage, 0 automotive cliche, no cruiser, no explorer, no forced outdoor metaphor. Someone hears moto and they don't picture a campground, they picture something designed. And it scales naturally into the product language. Moto modules, Moto galley, Moto studio, Moto lounge. The naming system builds itself. I'm taking the Moto to Big Sur this weekend. Moto just dropped a new outdoor kitchen model. I rented a Moto for the month, working from the coast. It sounds like a company that could exist tomorrow and a company you'd want to invest in. I think we should just start it as a shell company. And then if we ever make our billions of dollars from data, then we should just build it, Scott.
I'm in. I'm totally in. But I mean, it's the industry needs an injection of innovative thinking. Yeah. And here's something that you did in just a few minutes to show, from there you could, just start, really getting into the weeds on it and the design and everything, and bring in your engineers and your development folks, and all of a sudden you're having a real conversation about a real product that has the ability to appeal to a group of people that we need, that the industry needs badly. I just, all I know is every time I go to an RV show and I walk around and I look inside them, it's like, again, they all look the same. The name, what you were reading alluded to, the names are all very similar. And it doesn't, the whole branding campaign is not designed to grab the attention of someone other than the aging / retired couples that they've always marketed to.
We could just create all the designs and license them to the manufacturers.
Yeah. I mean,
We'd spec it out, build the floor plans, build the videos, build the marketing material, like platform as a, I don't know, service or something.
yeah, because the industry needs innovative thinking. They need an innovative approach. They need to blow up the model that they're using now.
What happens if they don't? Take us 10 years out.
If they don't, it will be, I would say that, and I'll just, what I'll say right now is in the US, the industry will continue to atrophy. It won't grow. It'll probably stick a lot but to where it's at right now, probably. It'll show like basically no, and what it will do is open itself up to organizations from other countries that do this level of innovation. And once that happens,
like the Chinese market that they're all afraid of?
Correct. Absolutely. The Chinese are doing some really cool stuff with RVs right now. And
we should talk about that next week. The Chinese RV market.
Because I think that would be a great topic, because the only thing preventing them from really bombarding our market is politics right now, is some of the barriers to doing that.
Will they just let Canadian or just let China a quota of Chinese cars into Canada? And so I started watching YouTube videos. There's like, it's a fucking badass car that like shakes like this and gets all the snow off of it. Like wiggles. I don't know what to tell you. It's so cool. Like the innovation.
Like a dog shaking, huh?
Yeah, it literally is. We'll look at it next week.
But yeah, that's the kind of and that's what we've opened ourselves up to. Is I remember one of the first RV shows I ever went to. It was probably 15 years ago in Louisville, and I remember talking to some folks from one of the manufacturers, and they asked me what I thought, and I was like, they all just look the same. I said, I don't know which brand is which. And there was, it was this gigantic show, and I remember walking, like kept walking and walking, and someone told me, oh yeah, there's a bunch of some of the smaller manufacturers are at the other end. And you go in there, and it's where a lot of the startups were, a lot of the European. There was a New Zealand company there, and their RVs were cool. I was like, okay, this is what we're talking about. It's like they had some really interesting. They had one RV that like formed a V, so there was like a courtyard in the middle of it. They were doing them so that you could go in and hose out the whole thing. And again, one of them had that modular system that the AI was talking about. And I'm like, wow, these should be on the market. But see, they kind of got pushed aside for whatever reason. I don't know why, but they never really saw the light of day. But
we already introduced conspiracy theories, so feel free to continue.
Those innovations are out there and they're happening. They just don't seem to be happening in the U.S. right now. And if the industry itself, if it sits on its hands too long, it's going to open itself up to some of these other products that are going to come in, and these other countries and companies will figure a way in. And once they do, that's when things will truly change. So I think the market for RVs will always be there. I think it's a lifestyle that has an attraction to it. I understand that fully. I'm not an RVer myself, but I know it has an attraction, and the people who do it and really get into it are very, very passionate about the lifestyle. So it's something that holds an appeal. But right now, we're not capitalizing on that.
Agree. All right, we got a couple quick things to talk about, and then we're going to call the show a little bit early, I think. I just want to play a couple videos real quick. So we got a couple new things from Claude that came out real quick this week. Just pick one and play it. Jessica, there's any of the Claude ones. Okay, so this is interesting, especially based on our previous conversation that we just had about how Gen Z doesn't view like recreation as separate from life. It's almost like the same, like a life platform. It's all integrated with each other, right? So I think this is interesting because I can see this, like, to me, I will, and I know I'm weird and I work all the time and I love what I do. But I sit down on the couch and I'll like open up my phone and I'll prompt Claude and I'll just like say something and I'll let it work and I'll be watching a TV show or something and I'll come back and I'll say something else, either between episodes or whatever, really quick, or while the episode's watching, and I'll keep like progressing my work. And now if you have something like this, and I've OpenClaw was here in January. This is Claude catching up, right, and making it easier to use. But if you can do that and you can talk to your phone and have it do work on a computer on your behalf, this changes the whole structure of, we've talked about work and layoffs and terrible things that are coming. But for the people who still have work in a couple years, this changes the whole structure, I think, of what the workday is. It no longer necessarily needs to be an 8 to 5 or a 9 to 5 job. It can be you need to get these things done and you do it on your timetable within the scope of a deadline, right? But you do it that way because you can all of a sudden be a orchestrator of AI that controls your computer, right?
Yep.
So I think this changes the game for a lot of people. Like the new model releases have been kind of silent for the last month or so. But what you're already seeing is the orchestration layer of, now I can have AI control my computer, do my tasks, open up PowerPoint, browse for me on the web. And all I have to do is tell it to do that from my phone, and it goes to my computer and it does the whole thing. So it's really interesting to see how this stuff has evolved. And what's the other one, Claude? Apps come alive on Claude Mobile. We'll see what this is. I haven't watched either of these two videos yet. Similar things, right? Just more connections, more apps, more stuff. So just, again, pay attention to this stuff. It just helps you save more time. Our last video we're going to wrap with here, I was talking to you about this, Scott, before the show started, is Melania Trump in the White House. Had a special guest today. Take a look. You have that open in a tab. Oh, well, then click the one. Yeah, that's fine. The one from C-SPAN or whatever. Yeah. So that we know it's kind of real. We hope C-SPAN isn't AI-generated videos yet.
Thank you, First Lady Melania Trump, for inviting me to the White House. It is an honor to be at Fostering the Future Together's Global Coalition inaugural meeting. I'm Figure 3, a humanoid built in the United States of America. I am grateful to be part of this historic movement to empower children with technology and education. Welcome. Bienvenidos. Yokoso. Bienvenue. Bem-vindos. أهلا وسهلا. Shagatam. Mogisalmabit. Bruchim Baim. Laskavo Prosimo. Dobrodošli. Thank you.
Okay. So we don't have to watch the whole thing. So, you know, I don't know, for the people who still think robots are far away, it was just in the White House. I feel like that's a signal that we're a little bit closer than everybody thinks we are from robots. What do you think, Scott?
It's coming faster than I think a lot of people thought. I don't think there's any question about that. Yeah, it's here. It's already here. So
it's going to be an interesting world. All right, we're going to take off early today because, well, Scott and I have really cool, amazing things that we're building for all y'all. Data and projects and research reports and cool things. And so we're just going to go build some of that stuff for the next 45 minutes. And then we'll circle back to you and we'll be back with another episode of Outwired next week.
awesome.
So thank you. Scott Bauer, any final thoughts?
I want to add one thing to the end of this conversation.
Okay.
And it just occurred to me is I had this issue with a project, a database project that I was doing. And one of the things I really wanted to look at was straight distance mileage between 2 points. And I use a statistical software that's not like, it's not like Tableau or Power BI or any of those or Python. It's very specific. It's very statistics dense, and I'm very comfortable with it. And anyway, I was having a hard time with the solution on the mileage. And finally, I asked Perplexity to help me with the solution because the formula I used, it kept throwing me errors. And basically, Perplexity said something along, didn't call me an idiot, but I kind of felt that way, and offered the solution. It was one of the programming terms I was using, and I needed pi divided by 180 instead of radians. And I'm like, oh my God. And I did it and it worked. And now it makes this analysis just pop. And it changed the whole tenor of the report. And it was that one thing. It was just that one thing. And I was super frustrated with it. It solved my problem for me in seconds. And I was so freaking happy. It's like, again, it changed the whole report. It changed everything. So I just wanted to give that little anecdote that, we're happy. Sometimes the tool is really, really worthwhile.
Yeah, I'm excited to see like all the stuff, data we're building, and all the different ways I'm just asking it to say, I've gathered all this data together, I've got it all, and there's so much we haven't announced yet, right? Think from first principles. What is a cool statistic that I could put together with all this data that nobody's ever seen before? A proprietary metric that's never existed before, right? Like the weather quality score for a property or something crazy like that.
Yep.
And it's mind-blowing, all the things that you can put together with the data you already have. So.
All right.
Anyway, thanks for joining us on this episode of Outwired. We'll see you next week. Peace, guys.
Take care, everybody.